Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Metropolis Radio, and today we are going to be talking about a very, very weird time in the Walt Disney Company's history. But I've actually seen quite a few of the movies that we're about to discuss. But I saw this article from Comic Book Resources that is aptly titled "That Strange Time Disney Created Another Animation Studio to Just Make Sequels." Let's explore a strange part of Disney's history where the studio created a new branch of animation to make sequels to its classic films. Now, some of you guys may actually know what some of these movies are just right off the top of your head, but let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Let's actually dive in. The legacy of Walt Disney Animation is unfathomably huge, from its groundbreaking early pictures of the 1930s and 40s, such as Snow White and Pinocchio, to its Renaissance classics in the 90s, all the way to modern hits such as Frozen and Encanto. Personally, I don't think it's fair to consider Frozen a hit anymore. That was a movie that legitimately came and went, and nobody cared after that. Time and time again, the studio makes childhood-defining films that are essentially for every new generation. However, there was a time when Disney made a studio that's main purpose was to make money, and make money quickly. In the early 90s, Disney was experiencing the full success of its Renaissance animated films. The Little Mermaid brought Disney animation back into the limelight, and Beauty and the Beast got nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. However, it was the unique success of Aladdin that really laid the groundwork for Disneytoon Studios. Sure, Aladdin was a box office hit and its songs were chart toppers, but it was its release on home video that was a runaway success. In its first 3 days of release, Aladdin sold 10.8 million units on VHS, becoming the fastest selling VHS release of the time. Its home media gross was so high that within weeks, it almost trumped the film's own theatrical box office results. The exact same thing actually happened to The Lion King. Is when The Lion King was released on VHS, I believe it made just as much, if not more money than it made at the box office, The Lion King being released to VHS. So yes, Disney was making a shit ton of money back in the early 90s. And here we go. Results like that don't go unnoticed. Aladdin was a hit in the cinemas, but its success at home was unprecedented. The studio initially conceived a television series with an hour-long pilot episode until producer Tad Stone suggested releasing the pilot on home video as its own feature. The film was produced and released as The Return of Jafar, and Disneytoon Studios was born. And yes, I have seen Aladdin, The Return of Jafar. I do not really remember it, so I don't remember if it was good or bad. I know I remember the third movie. What was that, Prince of Thieves? That one was god-awful. Strictly speaking, The Return of Jafar was not Disneytoon's first venture into animated feature making. The studio had previously released DuckTales the movie, Treasure of the Lost Lamp in 1990 under the name Disney Movie Tunes, and it was essentially a feature-length episode of the television show. The studio was initially created to make feature-length movies based on existing Disney TV shows, as is evident with DuckTales and the Goofy movie. However, it was The Return of Jafar that set a new course for Disneytoon's legacy. The Return of Jafar was produced on a budget of $5 million and grossed over $300 million in VHS sales. It was a monster success, and it showed Disney that there was a market for making cheap direct-to-video sequels to its animated classics. And remember, boys and girls, because The Return of Jafar was a straight-to-video release, it was never released to theaters, Disney got to keep the vast majority of that $300 million that it grossed, excluding, manufacturing and shipping and all that bullshit. But again, they didn't have to share any of that money with the theaters. The films Disneytoon Studios made in the 90s and early 2000s had budgets that rarely went above $15 million, but they all frequently made over $100 million on home video grosses. It was a money-making machine. Soon after the release of The Return of Jafar, Disneytoon followed with a third Aladdin film, sequels to Beauty and the Beast, The Little Mermaid, Lady and the Tramp, Cinderella, and unsurprisingly, The Lion King. I believe with The Lion King they made two movies. I think it was The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride, and The Lion King 1.5. I don't remember if that was actually Disney Animated Studios, because I remember seeing trailers for that movie, and I think it was actually released in theaters. So, I know for a fact The Lion King 2, Simba's Pride was direct-to-video, but The Lion King 1.5, I'm pretty sure was theatrical. These films do not have the same legacy as their original counterparts. They were made on the cheap to capitalize on audiences' fond memories of the originals and Disney's brand name. As such, none of the Disneytoon sequels are as critically well regarded as the original films. However, these were never made for critics. These films made up a lot of childhoods for kids growing up in the 90s and 2000s. Oh, got some in my throat. Yeah, I'm one of them, clearly. Many children of this generation have equally fond memories of The Lion King 2: Simba's Pride as they do with the original. To present a clear scale of the rate at which Disneytoon churned out movies, in the 84 years from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs to Encanto, Walt Disney Animation Studios made 60 feature-length movies. In the 21 years from The Return of Jafar to Disneytoon's final film in 2015, the studio made 46. If Disneytoon carried on making films at the same rate for 84 years, they would have made 184 films. It is a staggering rate of production that the studio had, and it had no signs of slowing down in the 2000s. This is where Disneytoon really gets bizarre and interesting. As well as continually making direct-to-video sequels to even more of their films, some of these sequels were lucky enough to get theatrical releases. The Jungle Book 2 and Return to Neverland were both released in cinemas. While neither were as successful at the box office as their predecessors, they still made a decent amount of money owing to their relatively low direct-to-video budgets. The studio also diversified, making spin-offs to popular Disney properties such as Winnie the Pooh and Mickey Mouse. This resulted in simple but nostalgic classics such as the Tigger movie. Oh, I watched the Tigger movie growing up. Piglet's Big Movie, I watched that one. Mickey's Twice Upon a Christmas, which I actually prefer Mickey's I think Mickey's Twice Upon a Christmas is actually a little better than Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas. But again, that's personal opinion, and some of you may deem that's blasphemy. Anyway, Pooh's Heffalump movie and Mickey, Donald, and Goofy, The Three Musketeers. That one, I remember when Mickey, Donald, Goofy, The Three Musketeers came out. It came out in 2004. And I remember because I bought the VHS at the time. Yes, VHS still existed in 2004. But by the end of 2004, going into 2005, they were largely phased out. But I can still recall the opening song from memory, the One for All and All for One. I would play a little bit of it for you here, but I'm afraid that the video would get taken down. So let's go ahead and let's move on. But anyway, if you've never seen Mickey, Donald, Goofy, The Three Musketeers, it's actually not that bad. But even I'll acknowledge I may be viewing it from a rose-tinted glasses perspective. And for all I know, that movie could be absolutely fucking horrible by today's standards. You know, maybe, you know, to someone who never grew up watching the movie. So, you know, I don't know. Give it a shot. And for those of you that have watched the movie either recently or during their childhood, let me know down in the comments what you think of Mickey, Donald, Goofy, The Three Musketeers. Like I said, I pretty much grew up on that movie. I watched that movie so many times. I could recall the opening song from memory, and I probably haven't watched the movie in like 15 years. Probably since 2007, 2008 is probably the last time I watched Mickey, Donald, Goofy, The Three Musketeers. Anyway, I've tangented for too long. Disneytoon additionally made a world record with one of its films, though it was quite by accident. It produced and released Bambi 2 in 2006, and I did not like Bambi 2. I remember that vividly. I did not like Bambi 2. But anyway, it produced and released Bambi 2 in 2006, 64 years after the original, thus creating the longest gap between an original film and its sequel. However, by the mid-2000s, the tides were turning for Disneytoon Studios. The last sequel it made was Cinderella 3 in 2007, and the last prequel was The Little Mermaid Ariel's Beginning in 2008. With Walt Disney Animation Studios prepping for a new renaissance with The Princess and the Frog Entangled, there was no longer a place or a need for Disneytoon. Under Bob Iger's leadership, Disney grew and grew. With its purchase of Pixar, Marvel, and Lucasfilm, the studio was an unfathomable juggernaut. Whatever success the Disneytoon films could achieve was peanuts by comparison now. When Frozen grossed almost $1.3 billion worldwide, it became clear that future Disney sequels would be properly produced by Walt Disney Animation Studios and released theatrically. The last few films produced and released under Disneytoons were spin-offs based on Tinkerbell from Peter Pan and strangely Planes from Pixar's Cars. These films didn't leave much of a mark. Though a third Planes film was in development, the studio was quietly shut down in 2018. It's a sad end for a studio with such a curious legacy, but with Disney's current grip on the theatrical market and the streaming giant that Disney Plus is turning out to be, it's clear that there is no place for Disneytoon anymore. It's a shame. It's a shame. Hold on. Sorry, guys. I jumped ahead. It's a shame, though they were cheap cash grabs designed to capitalize on the growing home video market. Some of them weren't half bad, and I do agree. Some of the movies Disney straight-to-video movies, some of them really weren't half bad. Like I said, Mickey, Donald, Goofy, The Three Musketeers. I grew up on that movie, and I have fond memories of it. Now, granted, as I brought up, I could be viewing it from a rose-tinted glasses perspective because I saw it when I was so young. For all I know, someone could watch it in their mid-20s and think it's the worst thing ever made. The Lion King 2: Simba's Pride wasn't that bad of a movie. Aladdin, The Return of Jafar. I know most people thought it wasn't that bad of a movie. I don't remember it. Prince of Thieves was god-awful. I didn't even get 20 minutes into that movie. What was another one I watched? Yeah, Bambi 2. Bambi 2 wasn't that great. I never saw any of the Cinderella sequels. I remember watching Return to Neverland, but I don't really remember the movie because I watched it when it first came out, and that was largely it. But yeah, who remembers the straight to video Disney sequels? I know I do because I grew up during that era, and some of you guys watching this might have, some of you might not, and some of you probably never grew up during that era. I think most of those movies are now on Disney Plus if you want to give them a shot. Again, some of them are not half bad, but understand that these were straight to video sequels, so the quality, it's kind of a crapshoot. Some weren't half bad, and some were just god awful. And guys, I'm going to go ahead and end it right here before I drag this out way longer than it needs to be. If you stuck around this long, thanks so much for doing so. And if you've been following me long enough, you know I'm terrible at ending these videos, so I will just see you guys next time.